You ever see a social media post where the comment section feels like it's describing two completely different planets? Well, today we're diving into exactly that. How one single post can create two parallel universes of meaning with basically zero overlap.
I mean, just look at this. These two comments were posted just minutes apart about the exact same thing. One person sees a beloved leader, the other sees a criminal. These aren't just slightly different opinions, they are fundamentally separate realities, being built in real time. So that brings us to the big question for this explainer. How is that even possible? How can one person be a hero to some and a villain to others based on the very same event? We're going to break down exactly how it works. Okay, so our story starts right here. On September 12th, 2025, the former president of Sri Lanka, Mahinda Rajapaksa, puts up a post on his Facebook page. And the context is pretty important. A new law had just been passed that required him to move out of the state-provided home he'd been living in for years. The reaction? It was instant and, honestly, overwhelming. In just a couple of hours, that post got more than 3,000 comments. But here's the thing. This wasn't a debate. It was more like a digital earthquake, revealing this deep, unbridgeable crack in society. So let's step into the first of these parallel universes. For his supporters, this Facebook post wasn't just some political statement. No, it was like a message from a near mythical figure, a king, a savior, a father figure who was being totally wronged. When you analyze the comments, you see 5 main stories that his supporters were telling. They basically built him up as a monarch, a savior who freed the nation, a heroic warrior, a protective father, and finally a martyr, being punished for all his good deeds. So here's that monarch idea in action. People are using royal language, calling him great king. They're lifting him completely out of the world of normal democratic politics. In their reality, he's not just a former president, he's a sovereign, and the law forcing him to move feels like a personal attack on a rightful ruler. Now, the savior frame is incredibly powerful. His victory in the 2009 Civil War becomes this ideological lens that colors everything. Looking through that lens, any criticism at all just gets dismissed as pure ingratitude towards the guy who saved the nation. And then you have the hero-warrior frame. Here, supporters use this really primal imagery. He is the lion, a massive symbol of unbreakable strength and national pride. This comment is basically saying his true nature doesn't change with his circumstances. He's not weaker, he's just in a different jungle. All right, now let's jump across that divide into the second, completely opposite universe. For his critics, that exact same post sparked a story not of respect, but of total ruin, corruption, and, well, just outright mockery. And just like on the other side, we see 5 clear counter-stories. Critics painted him as the architect of the country's economic ruin, a corrupt kleptocrat, a hypocritical whinger, a humiliated figure, and a statesman who completely wasted his legacy. It's a perfect, dark, mirror image of the first reality. In this reality, that war victory, that's ancient history. The only thing that matters now is the recent economic collapse. This comment hits back directly at the savior's story by calling him the architect of ruin, blaming him personally for the country going bankrupt. And here you see the humiliated figure frame. Critics flat out refuse his version of the story, that he left willingly to respect the law. Instead, they paint this picture of public humiliation, and you can tell they're taking satisfaction in his loss of power and perks. This is where the attack gets really personal. It goes after the very tone of his post. This is the hypocritical whinger frame. Instead of a defiant lion's roar, his critics hear a pathetic little whimper. The goal here is pretty clear. Strip him of any dignity and turn his statement into a total joke. So we've seen the what, these two clashing realities. But how? How are they built and reinforced so fast and so effectively online? Well, the answer is in the language itself, and often in what comes right after the words. Get this. Over 3,000 emojis were used in just the first few hours of comments. And these were not just for decoration. They were acting as these super efficient, high-impact signals of who you are and where you stand. And the split is just so obvious. On one side, you've got hearts, prayer hands, crowns, and lions, emojis that scream reverence and support. On the other side, laughing faces, vomiting faces, and clowns, emojis of pure mockery.
You know exactly which side someone is on without reading a single word.
And that brings us to a really crucial point. The goal of these comments isn't to persuade anybody. This is not a debate. It's a public performance. It's a declaration of which tribe you belong to. It's about being seen and being counted on your side of the line.
So let's zoom out for a second. What we're seeing in this one Facebook post is a perfect textbook example of a much bigger thing that's shaping our entire online world. And there's actually a name for it. It's called affective polarization. It's what happens when political disagreement stops being about policy and starts being about identity. It's not, I disagree with your ideas on the economy. It's, I dislike and distrust you as a person because you're on the other side. And that really brings us to the core takeaway from all of this. The very way social media is built encourages this shift. It rewards these high-emotion, low-effort signals of who you are, way more than it rewards thoughtful, good-faith debate. Our conversations become performances.
And that leaves us with a final question for all of us to think about. As we scroll through our own feeds, as we look at the posts that make us cheer or make us angry, it's really worth asking ourselves, are we trying to have a dialogue to understand each other? Or are we just performing, using a like, a share, or an emoji to signal which side we're on?